Coach Joe, Sergio, and Ali all coming from Sagesse the previous year. It was kind of a big deal.
It's crazy because how players from Beirut, they move to Sagesse, and then people start hating this and they start talking trash about that. And like as a person, I'm like, hey, that's part of the business, you know? If you're a player playing against Zach, how do you defend against this guy? So you were with Wembanyama when he was 14. How was he?
Super good kid. He was super respectful. Even at that point, I think I was 30 years old and he was calling me sir. You know, the NBA and even basketball hasn't seen a player like this before. As a big, like I would be trying to make him pass the ball. I'm gonna just try to be as big as possible and make him score over me and not, you know, try my best to not give him an angle to be able to do these, you know, reactionary moves. And
how do center, like, they train compared to point guards? I want to break down basics and fundamentals a little bit. Julian Gamble, I'm so happy to have you today with me. You played with Beirut and for a short period of time, but you won 2 cups in a month. That was phenomenal. Beirut at that time was doing amazing, one of the best teams in Lebanon. And we're going to break down the whole process, how you made it to Lebanon and how was the experience with Beirut. Also, we're going to talk about a video analysis. This is a new thing. I'm starting it with the series. So we're going to watch small highlights that you never watched before in Lebanon, and we're going to do a live reaction, break down every single movement, how the athlete is performing and how they're doing this. So first, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How are you doing today, and how is Italy? Because I know you're in Italy.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Just finished a practice not too long ago, preparing for a game tomorrow. We have 4 games left in our season, and we're trying to make a push towards the playoffs, but I'm doing good, ready for that.
That's great. So let's go back a little bit in time and tell me, because I know you also played in the States. You played in University of Miami. This is where you graduated from. And then you played all over the world in Italy, Germany. So you have a big background of experience and playing in great leagues. How did you make it to Lebanon?
So in the off season, I actually connected with one of my previous coaches that was in France. So he sent me a message and he told me about the potential opportunity to come to Lebanon. At that point, I got in contact with Coach Joe, who I still talk to today. We talked about the potential to join the team and to really do some great things and the championship aspirations of the club. And I was very intrigued by that. It was my first experience coming to the Middle East, so it was very different, but I felt like, you know, at that point in my career when I made the decision that I was ready to take on a new challenge and, you know, be in a new country, you get new experiences and make new connections.
Nice. And how do you think about Coach Joe?
I like him a lot. I mean, I definitely think he's a player's coach. Like I said, you know, I still stay in touch with him. I actually just spoke to him yesterday. So really since I left there, you know, he stayed in constant contact with me and, you know, checking on me, and I still continue to follow the team, and I'm talking to the guys as well, and you know, now following their playoff run, I think they're about to prepare for the second game of the first round.
Right. What do you think about the team in general, as like management and the way they compete? And it's a brand new team, so I want to know from a perspective where I think when you joined, it was brand new, right?
I'm not sure of how long they did. I knew another guy, Ken Horton, that had played for Beirut. I want to say the previous season, but I knew that they were a pretty new team. But honestly, from the inside, it doesn't necessarily feel like that. I think it's a lot of guys around that have experience both in basketball in general and European basketball and have played at high levels, and then very good, experienced Lebanese players that kind of know how the organization should be run. And I think that helps a lot when it comes to, you know, the day-to-day process of building and running a basketball team.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And you won, I think, the Arab Championship there and Doha too, right? That was 2 championships that you won there. All right. Who was the best player in the team with you as a local player? We're talking about Lebanese player.
I mean, honestly, it depended on the game, and I think that was a fantastic thing about our team. Obviously, Sergio had a great tournament in both of those tournaments, really. But you have Ali Haidar, you have Ali Messer, you have John Mark. Like, these are all very high level players, and they all had, fantastic games where if they didn't perform the way they did, we wouldn't have been able to win. So, even going into the tournaments, our first game, we actually lost to Sagesse, which was a big deal. But at that point, we kind of turned things around very quickly, and we run 12 games in a row to capture both of those cups. So that was a fantastic experience, and playing with those guys for sure.
Wow. So you played 12 games in a row without losing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Yeah, so tell me a little bit about the game about Sagesse. How was it? And what was the score difference?
So the first game, it was very, I would say, tense and a little anxious. Obviously with Coach Joe, Sergio, and Ali and John Mark, I think maybe even someone else, all coming from Sagesse the previous year. It was kind of a big deal. There were a lot of Sagesse fans there, and it was just a good atmosphere for me, even to be able to play in. So I felt like that first game we kind of played a little anxious and we didn't really play our game. And I think they ended up winning by maybe 5 or 7 points. Fast forward to about a week after that, where we end up playing Sagesse in the championship of the Doha tournament, and we won by 30 because I just felt like we settled. We came and we set the tone of that game and showed, the high level team that we were.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah, it's crazy because how players from Beirut, they move to Sagesse, and then people start hating this. Like, oh, Sergio, he moved from Sagesse to Beirut, and they start talking trash about that. And like, as a person, I'm like, hey, that's part of the business,
It is. It is. I mean, it's tough because as players, you try to make the best decision for yourself, but when it comes to the fans, their passion is for their team, which I completely understand. I think sometimes fans struggle with separating the basketball from real life and not remembering all of the great moments that, these players did bring to these teams. And they should, honor and appreciate that rather than, just become bitter because they decided to go to a different team.
Like how they see it from Sergio going to Beirut,
Yeah.
they took it personally, or the other players too. But it's a business in the end of the day, You can't judge someone because they went from place to another. It's like disrespect. No, just a business. This is how it works.
Yeah. I mean, especially because, money isn't the only reason why we play, but it's a very important one. If a player sees an opportunity to get a multiple year deal to have some stability with a much higher salary than they were previously getting, and a stable financial situation.
Absolutely. All right, Julian, let's break down a little bit some videos because that's the main reason we want to do this. And I'm very excited for that. This is my first time doing this, and that's your first time watching those videos, those highlights.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and start with the first one. Let's watch it together. Let me know when you have on your iPad. All right, it's going to be Jad Khalil.
Okay.
This is against Mariste. And they played in the playoff. That was the first game. So what do you think about it? So Jad Khalil is one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best point guards right now in the league and shooter. And his footwork plus his creativity, I feel it's amazing. Like in this one, how he took the shot while he's unstable in the air, right hand buzzer. I love that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, first of all, kind of can see just his pace and the awareness of his body, like, knowing where he is on the floor. Also, once he gets that defender on the side, to kind of be able to control his body and now be able to get to his spot. I mean, obviously that's a very difficult shot that he took, but I think he kind of created the opportunity to get that shot off by, the use of the gather step on the step back and then being able to step through to create an angle to get a shot up, obviously with the shot clock running down. So, I mean, when you have extremely talented players, you can't be surprised when they make plays like this.
Right. And how do you train that creativity? Because you said like he created that shot in last second. Because I'm wondering like how to be more creative on court.
I mean, you do have to, kind of have opportunities to just be in the gym and work on different stuff, and you never know, what type of move that you'll use. But it all ends up going back to the basics of like, using your body, using your position, and all of these moves, crossovers between the legs, behind the backs, and step backs. And then at that point, once you have like a feel and an instinct for the game, you can put these different combinations together and you make an endless amount of moves and counters, based on what you see when it comes to the defense.
As you can see also, the other player who was marking him, which is Salibi, went unstable. Like he fell down a little bit. And I think that's what you're talking about. Like the footwork and stepping back and forward. Like before taking the shot, he went forward and backward. And this is where Salibi went a little bit unstable. And Jad, which is the point guard, got the chance to make that. So I kind of really like the footwork pattern.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he really used, his shoulder to get the defender off balance. And even with the defense, I think he did a fantastic job at not fouling. I mean, I don't think you can play any better defense than this. And you just kind of have to tip your hat because this is a crazy shot.
That's a great point. He didn't foul him, and he stayed like big, trying to cover. But yeah, that's a great one. Right. That's a great one, yeah. All right, let's move to the other one. And the other one is spicy. It's Zach Lofton. Have you watched those before?
This one of Zach I have seen. And this is from the game yesterday.
So let's break it down a little bit. What can you see first? What do you think? Oh, he's marking Javen. Oh, wow. So Javen Blake. You know Javen Blake, right? Javion Blake. Yeah, he's a great player too. He was on my podcast too.
Yeah.
Phenomenal player. Great point guard too. But Zach, what I like about him, his footwork is unbelievable. Like he's an ankle breaker big time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's one of the more creative guys that I've seen with the basketball. He's athletic. He has the ball on the string. He can shoot. He can get to the basket and finish in the paint. And it's very tough to stop a guy like that. Another thing is, especially with a guy like Javion, and I know that he's had a fantastic season, it's tough to really play defense against the best player and then be the best player on offense for the entire game. So, you have guys that you play on the floor with that it's hard to defend. I mean, it's elite offensive players. And, sometimes, again, you just have to tip your hat. You have to try to just make it difficult on them. And if you can make him, Zach or any volume scorer shoot a lot of shots to be able to score a lot of points, you've done your job. But some of the shots that they're going to make, you can't teach, you can't coach, and you can't stop.
And what do you feel about this particular move when he went into two players and the other players was, I think, Eli Ristom. Yeah, that was Eli Ristom. And then when I think that's the hard part, going right and left. Like he went to the left side but used his right arm.
Right. I mean, that was for sure reactionary. I mean, once he got past the first line of the defense, he's seeing that second guy step up and finding that angle to go under him, to get to the reverse is definitely just, he's playing off an instinct at that point in his feel for the game. And again, I mean, a guy like this that is an elite scorer, it has been, you can't discount anything that he can do on the offensive end because, he can find these angles in a split second and be able to react to still be able to get a shot up.
Right. If you're a player playing against Zach, how do you prepare your defense mode? Like, how do you defend against this guy?
I mean, you got to defend him with multiple people. It's definitely a team job. Who's ever's on the ball, you have to be physical with him. But as a big, I would be trying to make him pass the ball. So I'm going to, be very high on the hedge and have high hands to try to get the ball out of his hands and make somebody else beat me. If I'm in a situation where he's coming downhill at me, I'm going to just try to be as big as possible and make him score over me and not, try my best to not give him an angle to be able to do these, reactionary moves and Euro steps and, up and under pump fakes and stuff like that around the basket. You got to try to take up as much space as possible.
Right, yeah. So here's the thing, you play center, and those two players are probably going to be more as either shooting guard or point guards, right? So from a center point of view, training is a little bit different. You have to be big, you have to be very aggressive. Tell me a little bit, how do center, they train compared to point guards? I want to break down basics and fundamentals a little bit.
Yeah, honestly, I'm a little bit different. I'm definitely a center that has a lot of skill when it comes to, being able to dribble the ball, being able to pass the ball. I'm very good playing with my back to the basket, but I'm also very comfortable playing in the face up. So, and I can shoot. I mean, if I'm open, I can knock down those shots as well. So, first of all, when I'm playing, especially when I'm on a team like I was with Beirut, my job was really to put pressure on the rim. So I wasn't spending a lot of time on the perimeter. So even in the summertime, I do a lot of stuff around the basket, working on, jump hooks with my left and right hand, working on moves going to the basket with my left and right hand, working out of face-up situations. But, I spend a good amount of time even working on ball handling, working on passing, working on, shooting in the mid-range, shooting the trail spot three, stuff like that. Because, the game now, you have to really be able to do multiple things. And I think the more things that you can do on the floor, the more valuable that you are, both on the offense and defensive end. But even certain things about my game that I excel in, like being a great screener and being really good at sealing around the basket, it's kind of hard to practice that stuff unless you're playing. You can go through drills where you set a screen and roll and, you finish around the basket, but you have to do it in a 5-on-5 setting to really be able to get the instinct and the body angles and the contact and everything you need to be able to continue to improve at stuff like that.
That's a great point. Before we move forward, I have a couple comments. First, those videos that we're putting here, they are taken by the/.co on Instagram. It's Wadia, great guy. He's investing time and effort to actually build some small reels and make it very catchy, and I love that. So just a small disclosure and make sure that we're not stealing anything.
Yeah, I've commented on his videos multiple times. Like the way that he edits stuff and how he's put stuff together is like one of the best that I've seen, honestly. So yeah, he's definitely doing something special, and hopefully I can get him to make me some edits, even if I'm not in the Lebanese league.
He targets the Lebanese league, but Wadia, great guy. Yeah, he's doing great with those small reels, and this is what we use today just to do live reactions. So those are great ones. And as you said, even if you're center, let me give you a small example. If you watch Wembanyama, right, and the NBA right now, you know what I'm talking about for sure, right?
Yeah. I actually played on the team that he was playing for his youth basketball when we were in Paris together. And I met him when he was 14, and I was around him for that season. So I'm not surprised at all the route that he's taking with what he looked like even when he was 14.
Wow. So you were with Wembanyama when he was 14?
Yeah.
Wow. How was he at 14?
Very tall.
Right. Dude, this guy is huge.
But yeah, I mean, I've talked to him a few times still, like just in the past year, but super, super good kid. He loves basketball and he's a hard worker, but he has a great attitude. And yeah, I mean, he was super respectful. Even at that point, I think I was 30 years old and he was calling me sir. So, he's a really, really good kid, man. And I'm super happy for, his continued growth. And man, I'm excited to see what he continues to do because, the NBA and even basketball hasn't seen a player like this before.
Exactly. So that being said, I was, bringing up Wembanyama because his skills level, how he can dribble the ball is phenomenal too for his size. Like I was talking to more because I'm not a pro basketball player, and I'm a physical therapist who knows movement, and I did my master's in sports, so I know how the movement mechanics they work. And this guy is ridiculous for his height. Plus, he's very flexible. Like, this guy is very athletic to a point where it's so easy for him to move fast. That's ridiculous.
And I think they work on it. I mean, and it's even more important to work on it at an early age because you get your body into this rhythm of being able to do these things. And I think what non-tier did specifically in developing him is they didn't just stick him by the basket because he was the tallest player. For me, when I was coming up, if you were the tallest guy, you played by the basket. So in hindsight, that definitely stunted my development because I feel like I had those tools early on that I really could have developed into being a different type of basketball player. But because, the tallest guy goes by the basket, this is a long time ago where, it was almost unheard of to have big people out on the perimeter. But now I think basketball is more so transitioning into a positionless game. And having the platform of a guy like Victor to be able to go out there and do the types of things that he's doing now is fantastic.
Yeah, there it is. It's unseen. Huge guy. Hopefully no injuries. Injuries free. It's funny. I was checking. I think he goes to bed every night at 9:30 because you mentioned that he was 14 and calling you sir. And I feel that being humble and just like the way he is, a nice guy, nice dude. I don't know him for sure, but just by you saying this, he goes to bed 9:30, read a book.
I mean, even that is like he's creating, good habits for himself. Even when it comes to like the injury prevention, I think all of the flexibility and the prevention stuff that he does will definitely keep his body protected. Because I mean, I can only imagine moving at his size the way that he does. Because even me being, 6'9" and moving my body, it's not easy. So I can only imagine being 7 or 8 inches taller and still being able to do the same types of things.
Also, I was watching, you're talking about flexibility. This guy is not like normal flexible, is over flexible. Like he does splits. I want to find the video. He has a video, I think, on Instagram. He's doing splits.
Yeah, I saw it. It was from the summertime.
I'm like, are you a gymnastic guy or a basketball player? Like, why are you doing the split? I think his background should be gymnastics some way. You can't be, I mean, I've never seen, that's ridiculous. I've never seen that flexibility in a player. Like, even being big, the bigger you are, the less flexible I think you can be. Yeah, so that was about Wembanyama, a great player. And you just remind me about the conversation where we were talking about being big and being, have a lot of skills. So that's as important. So you played also in University of Miami, right?
Yeah, I did.
Nice. So that was, just to break it down a little bit, that was in the NCAA, right?
Yeah, NCAA, the ACC, Atlantic Coast Conference. And I graduated from there in 2013.
Okay, great. And what was the process after or in the University of Miami? How you were recruited to play with them?
Just recruited through like AAU or, for more so for overseas, like youth basketball circuits. And through my high school as well. I was recruited by a bunch of different schools after I had a really good summer going into my senior year of high school. Ended up choosing the University of Miami, and my last year down there, we actually won the ACC and ended up going to the Sweet 16 in the March Madness tournament. So that was a fantastic experience, for my senior year, for my final experience in college.
Nice. And from there, you went overseas to France directly. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So in the summertime, I worked out for a couple of NBA teams, but I didn't get the call to like join them for training camp or anything because I wasn't drafted. I also didn't even play summer league. So I signed in France in the second league for my first season, and that was the beginning of my overseas experience. That year was tough. I mean, my team wasn't great, but just from a professional aspect of being able to really learn a little bit of what overseas basketball life is like, and learn how to be a pro.
Yeah, man. Especially going from like playing in college here, which is great. And we were talking about that, like UConn won the whole thing. And playing in Division 2 in France, that wasn't like, mentally maybe that wasn't like something you're used to it, because, college basketball is great here, especially University of Miami, big college.
I mean, the second league in France is actually fairly strong, I would say. There was even, guys in France in the first and second league that had NBA experience in my first year. So, I got to play against some pretty good competition, but I think it was just like a starting point for me because, I had I would say, decent career. I mean, obviously I won a championship. Even my last season, I was all tournament team, all defensive team, and all coaches team, which was great. I mean, those accolades, but, even at that point, I just needed to go somewhere where I could start my overseas journey and kind of build up from there. So I just kind of saw it as an opportunity. I mean, individually, I played really well that first season. I was top 5 in the league in like 5 or 6 different categories. My team just wasn't very good. That's all.
Right. So after playing D2 in France, what was your next move?
After D2 in France, I went to first division in Belgium. And I played there for 2 seasons. So, another pretty cool experience. Still individually played well. In my second season there, we actually were 1 possession away from making it to the finals. We lost in the last shot in the 5th game of the semifinal series. So, that journey obviously didn't end the way I wanted to, because I wanted to end the championship, but I spent two very, very good years in Brussels, and I still stay in contact with some of those guys today.
Right. And you played D1, which is great. You moved from D2 to D1.
Right.
Yeah,
So ever since then, I mean, I've played in first divisions all over the world.
There we go, man. I was talking also to Dwayne Jackson. Do you know him? Have you met him? Dwayne Jackson's he played with Ahmedman right now. Great guy, too.
Okay.
He told me the same thing. When he started overseas, he was shocked. He was like, is that overseas? Is that what I'm expecting? Right. You know what I'm saying? And then from there, he was like, oh, okay, now life makes sense. So you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, for sure you do.
Yeah, so after, so what do you have after you played in Brussels? Where did you go to? Germany?
So, after Brussels, I went to Germany. Spent 2 years in telecom baskets in Bonn. At this point, I was on a team, perennial playoff team. We were expected to make it every year, which we did. We ended up running up against a pretty good team both of those years in Bamberg, and we didn't advance past the quarterfinals. But that was a great experience. Again, another great city. Living wise in the league, the German league was pretty high level. I mean, a pretty good step up from Belgium. So, going from Belgium to Germany, again, I learned a lot. I had to adjust. I had to grow. I had to improve to be able to thrive and play, some pretty good basketball, which I did. So I spent 2 years there, and then I went to France. I spent time between Asvel and Nanterre, and that was pretty good. Again, like when I was with Nanterre for that season, we finished 4th in the French league. We went to the quarterfinal of the Champions League, which was the furthest that they had been in their history up until that point. So we made some history there. I enjoyed, playing with my teammates there, and living in Paris obviously ain't a bad place to live. So, we were living there. We had a great experience. Left Nanterre and ended up going to play in China for the summer. And that was an interesting experience when it comes to the shift in lifestyle to anywhere in Europe and to the Chinese lifestyle. But, I had another import with me, OJ Mayo. Me and him, grew pretty close in our time there, and I was there for about 2.5 months. And this was leading me up to my first stint in Italy, which was right before COVID started. We had a great season, and we were in first place in the Italian league, being the highest level team I had played for to date. Stopped the season because of COVID, but we came back the next year and we won 19 Euro Cup games in a row, which is tied for the record.
Wow.
Unfortunately, we fell short of the championship in the last game of the semifinals, but then we went on to win the championship in the Italian league, sweeping, being undefeated in the entire playoffs, which was the first time that that's ever been done in Italian league history. So, that was pretty cool, to be able to do that and enjoy that experience with those guys. And I still have a great bond with all of those guys and even all of the fans still from that team. And from there, I went to Tenerife. This was my first time being in Spain. And I was part of the team that won the Basketball Champions League that year. Although I didn't stay for the whole season, they still honored me once they won the championship with a medal, which was a very, very special thing for them to do. And then I went to Israel. And Israel was a pretty cool experience. I had never been in Israel up to that point. And I definitely enjoyed it. I mean, the lifestyle was good. The league was good. My family enjoyed it as well. And that kind of leads us up to making the decision to come to Lebanon. And previous to this, I had no idea of the history between Lebanon and Israel or any of these
Right.
Middle Eastern places. And at that point is when I started to learn about it, because I actually had to go get a new passport before I came to Lebanon because I had Israeli stamps in my passport, and I was told that they probably wouldn't allow me to come in the country if I had Israeli stamps. So, for me, that kind of shows a little bit of how the severity of the opposition between the two countries. And yeah, I mean, that leads us up to today and being back in Italy in my 11th pro season. And God knows how many I have left, but hopefully it's a bunch of them.
That's great, man. Wow, you played like literally, you went all over the world, man. Asia,
Right.
Middle East, Europe, States.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
phenomenal. That's phenomenal. What was the best? I mean, I heard you mentioned like Italy was one of the highest level you played in. And yeah, Lebanon Israel thing is a little bit tricky. I'd never
is.
heard that from a basketball player, so that was pretty interesting. Like you have to do your new passport again, and you
Yeah.
didn't know about all of that. But what were the highest basketball level you ever played in, or any team or country we're talking about?
Yeah, I would say that my second year in Italy, what I did with that team, I think that was my best team that I played for, Segafredo, Virtus Bologna. Being able to almost win the Euro Cup, but making history of winning 19 games in a row in that, and also sweeping through the Italian playoffs to the championship. I think that was a special, almost once in a lifetime kind of experience. Just when it comes to, professional basketball, because, we work so hard to be able to have a chance to compete. And to not only be able to compete, but to be able to make history definitely makes that team special. But, in my time, I played with so many great players and on so many great teams. Had a great experience with Tenerife, and they're a championship level organization. And even obviously my time in Lebanon, I mean, I know it wasn't that long, but being with the team for a month and being able to win 2 cups, like that's championship level organization. That's championship level basketball, championship level coaching. I mean, when it comes to winning championships, everything matters, and you have to really be intentional when it comes to that. And I think, that stage was set, and, we went through a lot in those days. I mean, we played 13 games in 19 days.
Wow.
So, physically, mentally, spiritually, it was tough on us, but I think our togetherness and how we prepared for those games allowed us to be successful.
For sure. Wow, that's really impressive. Well, Julian Gamble, it was great talking to you, man. Great stories, great history. Thank you for the analysis. Great analysis too.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
it was a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I definitely enjoyed it, and I will be back whenever you need me to be.